I thought it might be fun to discuss why I read. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and today we're going to be doing kind of a topical sort of discussion, but before we get into that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, check the description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, and let's jump right on into this. Basically, I saw a video by my buddy Theo from Rekindled Reader, who was kind of reacting to a series that my friend Joanna does, and so this is just, I kind of wanted to keep the ball rolling here a little bit, and basically the topic is why read, and then Theo took it a step further and to kind of deep dive and discuss what BookTube has done to affect his reading, and I kind of just, the lights went off and I wanted to start talking about this because, why I read and why I continue to read the way I do has changed as I've gotten older and become more mature or immature depending on how you view me. I can get rather high energy at some points, but, starting out, reading was very much about, I used to watch my mother read. My sister was a big reader growing up, and, I was one of those kids who was constantly raised with their parents reading to them, and, reading was very much encouraged, because if I'd go to vacation, we'd make sure to visit, the local library and things of that nature. And then if I got punished, I was basically only allowed access to my books. I wasn't allowed access to the TV. I wasn't allowed to talk to my friends. But I was allowed to have 3 or 4 books, depending on what I'd done. If I got punished, if I got really punished, I knew I was in trouble if my parents took away my books. That's when I knew I'd crossed the line. It crosses the slap on the hand, for a couple days, go do nothing. Versus, hey, you might have committed a misdemeanor or something. I don't know. I don't remember that far back. Anyway, and so I was very much raised inside a culture of reading, and so it's just been something that I've always done. I grew up with the Harry Potter books. I grew up with the Narnia books. I grew up with the Xanth books. I remember I used to really love Ender's Game and things of that nature. I probably read Ender's Game 6 or 7 times just as, a preteen. And so it was just something that was always very encouraged. And so it's kind of just become a part of my identity. And then, of course, I had the standard dip when, going to college and going out there and starting dating and socializing. I was still reading, but it was more on the back burner. And then some years ago, let's say probably 7 years ago, I started working night shifts at a local gas station. And, night shift is very boring, especially because this gas station had to lock the doors, and you could only do, service through a portal for safety's sake and things of that nature. And so I did bring along a book to read at night. And so then I just started ramping up and reading that way. That was when I got into the Dresden Files and things of that nature, and I read Dresden. I read all the Dresden books multiple times while working at that gas station. And then I started my current job, and my boss was very much into reading. And he introduced me to Drew Hayes, which then kind of opened me up into Kindle Unlimited, which then was a deeper gateway into the self-pub kind of community. And then from there, I started watching Daniel Green. Daniel Green led to Mike from Mike's book reviews. Mike led to Slowly Read to Nico. Nico led to Megan from Megan's Reading Revelations, and then they both ganged up on me, and I started my channel. And since then, I was already reading, I was juggling Faithful and the Fallen and things of that nature, and there's just something about reading that I just love, being able to go on an adventure that is not only fully in my mind, but also interacts with my emotions in a way that, say, watching a TV show may not. I think we get better ups and downs in a book than we do on, say, film. Or, if a film is done well, I can get goosebumps or I can get choked up. But usually that doesn't happen multiple times within that movie. Usually they got 1 or 2 moments to get me. And it takes a lot of build-up to get there. With a book series, though, in Faithful and the Fallen, I had choked up moments in Malice multiple times, Valor multiple times, Ruin way too many times in Ruin, and then in Wrath just all over the place. It just jerks my emotions all around in a way that I kind of like, And so it makes me feel things that I don't normally tap into on a day-to-day basis. And I just love that about reading. I also feel like I can kind of get to know these characters on a more personal level. And that's just something that I really, really get to enjoy. Because one of the things I love about BookTube is community. And you can kind of get your own little head community going whenever you're reading a book. Or, because a lot of these series now use the found family trope. And you can kind of insert yourself into these found families. And somebody who, I come from a very broken family. Didn't start out that way, but, there was tragedy when my mom passed in 2012, and my family just kind of cracked apart, and we never really were able to come back together. And, my wife's family is great and everything like that, but my own personal family that raised me is very much a broken family. And so a lot of the times I get a lot of joy out of watching just random people come together. And that's why, when I get to interact with, Andrew D. Meredith, Tiago, Tori, Joanna, Leslie, the Nerdy Narrative, Alan, Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, Nico, we've got Patrick Ryan, we've got Jake the Bookish Drummer. I've just got such a great community of friends here on BookTube. Jordan, just my patrons. I mean, of course I'm going to do the standard aside of saying thank you to my patrons, because the patrons allow me to kind of just pursue this hobby and continue forward with the growth and bringing everybody book hauls and things of that nature. So just interacting with people in general, and especially my patrons, is always, a delight. And so, I look forward to these interactions, not only in real life, but also in my books. And that's something that I just truly find magical. And then, of course, I read sci-fi fantasy because it's bigger than life. It's the impossible. One of the things that I've been really getting into lately is fantasy westerns. And it takes something like the western, which is very serious, very dark, and very gritty, and just puts a fantasy twist on it that elevates it even higher, like train robberies with dragons from No Land for Heroes, or just, there's something about the fantasy western subgenre. People just having different color skin, or mining magic out of the ground, like in Sarah Shorn's fantasy western. The name is escaping me right now. I know Glass Rhapsody, and then the first book, the name is just poof, when you try to think of something, and it just leaves your mind. But I really, really love that aspect of reading. It's just something so cool. And of course, who doesn't like swords, battles, magic, demons, spaceships? All that's really cool stuff, and I really like experiencing that. Now, how has BookTube kind of affected my reading? Well, when I started watching Mike's book reviews, he was recommending Faithful and the Fallen and Red Rising and First Law, and so I was kind of stagger reading these series of I didn't want to burn out on the series, and so I got into my head that what I could do was I could read one book from Faithful and the Fallen, then read Red Rising, then read what other series The Expanse, or the First Law book, and then I would read the first book of each one, then read the second of each one, and it got me into this routine of habitual reading. And then, of course, I've got to read in order to create content here on the channel. And so then that kind of made it more of a daily task, something that I insert into my day. I make reading a part of my day now so that I can make BookTube channels. And so I don't feel like reading is a job or a chore, because it's something I still very much enjoy. But of course, I've had to ramp up audio in order to keep the TBR pile manageable. I'm trying to keep my TBR sub 300, and it is difficult. And so I do a lot of audio, and I had to get these kind of headphones, where these are the bone conduction. This isn't an advertisement for bone conduction headphones, but they go around the ear and they sit right there so that I can hear my family and my wife and things of that nature. And so I've kind of adapted to do audio through bone conduction so that I can still interact with my day-to-day life. I very much listen to audiobooks while I work, and then late at night I sit in bed once the kids are asleep, and I'll either watch something brainless, like Fixer Upper, or Discovery Plus, HGTV, cooking shows, things of that nature. I don't engage in a lot of TV anymore, so I'm not up on The Witcher, I'm not up on Rings of Power. I'm just not that guy. I'm the book guy. And I'll sit there and I'll read my Kindle or a physical book. I've got my night lamp on my nightstand and things of that nature. And I usually do the Kindle because it's less invasive on the wife and things of that nature. She can go to sleep and I can just kind of sit there nice and quiet and read my books. But the way that BookTube has kind of changed the way that I read is it is very much now, I don't just read purely for pleasure. There is a work aspect that has gotten paired with my reading, which allows me to experience a lot more stories than I typically would. I am, at the time of recording, at 183 books read just in 2022. That is a lot of books. Basically, if I was to read, take 52 times, 4, and that's 208. If I hit 208 books, then my weekly average becomes 4 books a week, which is absolute insanity. I realize that is ridiculous. I only do 4 book reviews a month, typically, and then I'll try and usually it's 3 book reviews and an indie spotlight for my self-pub stuff. And that is a lot of, that's like 7 books a month that I have to read if I wanted to keep putting out new content. Or I could do, series analysis, series wrap-ups, and things of that nature. But the way BookTube informs on me is, I very much experience and fall victim to FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I constantly am buying new series, and I buy them in their entirety before I've ever tried the series. And I have been burned multiple times, yet I keep doing it. And I don't know why this is. But, it's just, I still enjoy reading. But from where I started at, where reading was very much a part of my life and culture, my own personal culture, and it was also given to me as a punishment and things of that nature. It was positive reinforcement. Now I kind of read to interact with you, the viewer. I read to interact with you, the community, and also all my friends and fellow booktubers. I like to be involved in those panel discussions, or kind of drop into live shows and give my opinions, whether they're unpopular or not. Lately, a lot of my opinions seem to be more unpopular than anything else. But I just enjoy interacting with the community, and I think it's great that BookTube kind of pushes me to be more present in my reading, to make it more a part of my daily life. Whether I take it to the extreme, I probably think that I do, and I could easily kind of pull back a little bit if I wanted to. 200 books a year is a lot to read. And you're never going to read everything. I will never finish my TBR pile. And I know I need to accept that. But something in me is a completionist. Thus, I collect all the books before. I've only read the first 3 of Anthony Ryan's Blood Shadow. Is it Blood Shadow or is it Raven Shadow? It's Raven Shadow. It's Blood Song, Raven Shadow. But, I've got the follow-up duology. And then I've got this Draconis Memoria. I've only read 3 Anthony Ryan books, and I've already owned 5. No, I own 8 different. No, I own 10 other Anthony Ryan books that I haven't even read. And they're just sitting here on the shelf, and they're calling my name. And BookTube makes me want to reach for those series and read them. So then I can then tell you what they're about or how they made me feel and things of that nature. And so I just think it's very interesting the way that I've kind of evolved from a reading for pleasure to almost reading for work type of deal. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that this is kind of standard here on BookTube. How do you approach it? I just really would love to know. That said, guys, I feel like if I keep talking, I'm going to end up rambling. So I'm going to end it right here. But I just want to give a special thank you to not only Joanna, but also Theo for kind of giving me the idea to continue this sort of discussion. That's really all I've got for you today, guys. So, till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.